Today, Robert Garcia, the ranking member on the Oversight Committee, released 95,000 new images from the Epstein estate. These photos include countless shots of Donald Trump with women on Epstein's properties. Images from parties that Trump has long tried to hide. This release marks some of the most damaging and disturbing material yet. We are going to go through these photos, the accompanying information, and so much more. But before we dive in, if you could quickly leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to support our channel and our work exposing this cover-up, it would mean a lot. Now, before we get into these photos and the breaking news Robert Garcia shared with the House Oversight Committee, I want to start with another piece of breaking news about information being released that has the DOJ panicking, which Ari Melber broke down right here.
Legal developments tonight, and they look like this, and I'm going to walk you right through them. These are two separate cases where two judges have ruled for major Epstein transparency and basically changed what is longstanding precedent on what materials you release from criminal probes. I'm going to walk you through it here in plain English. The big development today is one of these cases, a judge granting a motion to release sensitive Epstein records, specifically to unseal what are grand jury records in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. Now, that mirrors another ruling, and I'll tell you about that as well. But if this sounds like a huge change, it is. If you think back to every case you've ever looked into, maybe you're a true crime Whitey Bulger fan, maybe you remember the Mueller probe, grand jury materials are protected by Rule 6, which is one of those sort of long-standing rules of the federal court system. And the reason the grand jury materials are usually secret is because, unlike, say, an open trial where the government is presenting certain evidence, this is a private process designed to decide whether you get to trial or not. And for many reasons of fairness, say they don't indict and move forward, you don't just release everything they ever talked about. It could affect people's lives or careers. That's generally the baseline. But there is a new law in town. It's called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. You probably recall it because it was passed over the objections of Donald Trump all year. Then at the end, he claimed he was for it. He was forced into signing it. Republicans bucked him. And that law now requires the release of a ton of different types of Epstein material, colloquially referred to as the Epstein Files, this month by December 19th. So this new ruling responds to that law, and it comes just after another judge agreed in another case that also involves Epstein in Florida. Remember, there was that earlier Epstein case down there? So a Florida judge down there orders those Epstein grand jury records to also be released by the same logic. Now, this may sound like one of these legal weeds type things, but I want to point out a couple points on this with you. Number one, this is why the government, Congress, still has these vast powers. Sometimes we watch Congress and feel like they're not doing much or they're only fighting. But because of the push that we follow, the survivors, Ro Khanna, Republican Massey, and then winning over the objections of even the House Speaker, they passed this new law, the Epstein Transparency Act. And so, number one, new laws can change everything. Judges who literally last month were like, hey, you know we can't release grand jury materials, they're always secret, today are saying, if you read the law, if you read the ruling, well, there's this new law and it says release everything, and this applies to everything. Number two, we've heard a lot about whether the Trump DOJ will try to play games or hold back materials. But I want to point something out, and maybe people who think everything Trump does is wrong will have to face some cognitive dissonance, but this is coming because the Trump DOJ asked to release the materials. This is not from some critical group or survivors class action lawsuit. This is Pam Bondi's DOJ, only under pressure, of course, as you know, but the pressure worked. Both these rulings will release new Epstein files and Maxwell files from previously secret grand jury materials because the DOJ was pushed into asking for it.
There is nothing that Donald Trump can do to stop what is coming. It will be drop after drop. It will be leak after leak. It will be release after release of new Epstein photos, videos, emails, that there is so much communication that is becoming public. But what might be more damaging is what we're seeing today. These photos, of which there are so many, and they are all so disturbing. These photos of Donald Trump with several women that we will continue to go through were released today as part of a 95,000 plus photo release from the House Oversight Committee, in which you see Donald Trump on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Donald Trump with pictures of Jeffrey Epstein at parties. Donald Trump with women, their faces redacted, and the Jeffrey Epstein party. There are so many images that are just disturbing of Donald Trump and potential victims of Epstein, potential victims of Donald Trump. You also see here this photo of the Trump condom at an Epstein party, presumably. I don't really think that this is accurate if we're talking about size here, but this is the level of relationship that Trump and Epstein had. Now, of course, because Robert Garcia and the Democrats who have been pushing for transparency in Donald Trump's Epstein cover-up actually care about the victims and about protecting their identities, their safety, and their stories. A lot of care is being taken with these materials. There are many women shown in these photos with Donald Trump whose identities we simply do not know. We don't know who they are, what their relationship to Jeffrey Epstein was, whether they were victims, whether they were groomed, or even how old they were at the time. Those are serious questions, and that uncertainty is exactly why redactions matter here. We also know that Michael Wolff has spoken extensively about his personal knowledge of Epstein's photos and Epstein's behavior. And yes, there are fair questions about Wolff's credibility given his proximity to Epstein. That's a discussion for another day. But what cannot be ignored is that he has consistently described Epstein possessing photos of Donald Trump with extremely young women. That context matters as these images are now coming out. With many of the photos being released, it will be difficult to determine who is who or how old they were because faces are being redacted. And that is absolutely the right call by Robert Garcia. He is clearly trying to strike the balance between maximum transparency and protecting potential victims. This is not Democrats playing politics. This is Democrats taking the issue seriously and acting responsibly. What these photos continue to expose, though, is just how close Donald Trump was to Jeffrey Epstein. Much like the Epstein estate images we've already seen, they show the strange, unsettling nature of these parties, an environment that feels uncomfortable, secretive, and deliberately hidden. The photos of Trump and Epstein together, the social events, the private access, the plane trips. This entire relationship has been buried for years. And now we are looking at direct evidence from the Epstein estate itself. That alone tells us one thing very clearly. There is more coming. This is exactly why Donald Trump is panicking. As we heard earlier from Ari Melber, Pam Bondi never expected the grand jury material to see the light of day. The administration was banking on being able to hide behind the courts, claiming, oh, the courts are holding this up. The courts will decide. We're powerless here. And that excuse coming from people who have never respected the law for even a second is laughable. But that excuse no longer works, not after the release of evidence tied to Ghislaine Maxwell's grand jury proceedings, and not with the Epstein estate releasing material that no court can block. That is why the release of 95,000 photos is so devastating. And Robert Garcia never said this was the end. He didn't say, that's it, we're done. He made it clear that more evidence from the Epstein estate will continue to come out. This is also why following the money is so critical. Financial institutions have openly admitted that they worked to sanitize Epstein's books so they could continue doing business with a known predator and trafficker. Survivors have been clear about this for years. Follow the money. That trail exposes not just Epstein, but his associates, people who can talk, people who may have photos, people who may have been silent out of fear. And right now, with Donald Trump weaker than he has ever been, that fear should be fading. This is the moment for people to speak out. We also need to refocus on Donald Trump's efforts to protect Ghislaine Maxwell. That part of this story has quietly slipped into the background, but it shouldn't. The depth of Trump's connection to both Epstein and Maxwell is becoming clearer by the day. And if this much information is coming out of the Epstein estate alone, just imagine what Maxwell could provide. That is exactly why she is being treated so well, why she is sitting in a cushy 5-star prison environment on our dime, getting food delivered, doing yoga, playing games, and waiting quietly for a pardon. Silence has a price, and Donald Trump is paying it. But this story is far from over. There is more coming, much more. And it is only going to get harder for Donald Trump to dodge questions or control the narrative. That is exactly what Congressman Jamie Raskin had to say right here.
The same judges who refused to waive the 6E protections for those materials are now saying that under the federal law passed by Congress, they must turn it over with dispatch without any delay while protecting the privacy and the confidentiality of the victims. So these judges are very strictly implementing the legislative intent behind the statute.
We're seeing today Donald Trump try to run that play again that he tried to run in the Epstein file 6 months ago, telling reporters that story's dead, that story's over. He's trying to do the same thing now with that second missile strike that some legal experts are calling murder in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about self-protection. The same kinds of things he, of course, accused other presidents of doing, he's actually doing. It's a massive projection, and it's the same thing here. I mean, he was the one who went out with all of his people and said, we want to see the full Epstein files. They're the ones who promoted the whole QAnon story about a power elite trafficking in children and human flesh. And what do you know? That power elite is the one that Donald Trump knew integrally well because he was Jeffrey Epstein's best friend. And the truth is going to come out now under this law. And there is a tremendous momentum behind the disclosure, not just of the grand jury records, but of all of the discovery materials. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of documents that are going to be released.
We are going to stay on this story relentlessly because, in my view, it is the single most important issue to be covering inside the Trump administration right now. Aside from questions surrounding Donald Trump's health, this is the topic he most desperately does not want anyone talking about. That alone tells you how significant it is. What we are witnessing is a cover-up, just like so many others that have defined Donald Trump's time in power. And I also want to get back to the core questions surrounding Jeffrey Epstein's death. That conversation has faded more than it should have, and it is not something we are going to let disappear on this show. We will continue to dig into every part of this story and keep bringing it to you. If you want to support that work, as always, you can hit that subscribe button and leave a like on this video. If you made it all the way to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I will see you soon.